A bakery fire code violation and a near-miss kitchen fire led to 72 hours that destroyed 10 years of dreams. The owner had insurance, she had permits, she had a solid business plan, but she didn't have the one document that could have saved everything. And it's not what you think. It's not your business plan, it's not your insurance policy, it's not your operating agreement. It's something 95% of new and experienced entrepreneurs have never even heard of. Hello, my name is Scott Lindsay, and I am the host of Small Business Risk, and I help entrepreneurs identify and eliminate the threats that kill businesses before they reach their first anniversary. Today's story is about Maria, a bakery owner who lost everything in 3 days because she didn't have a risk register, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to create one before you open your doors. Maria had dreamed of owning a bakery since she was 8 years old, watching her grandmother make conchas in Guadalajara. After 10 years of saving, working 2 jobs, and perfecting her recipes, she finally did it. In March 2020, she opened Sweet Maria's Bakery. Maria was careful. She wasn't reckless. She had done everything right. Comprehensive business insurance, check. All city permits and health department approvals, check. A detailed business plan with 5-year projections, check. An accountant, a lawyer, and a commercial lease reviewed by professionals, check. She even had an emergency fund with $25,000 set aside for unexpected expenses. Opening day was magical. Lines around the block. Her tres leches cake sold out in 2 hours. Local food bloggers raved about her pan dulce. By month 3, she was grossing $12,000 per month. By month 6, $18,000. She hired 2 employees. She was living her dream. Then came July 15th, 2023, a Tuesday morning. Maria arrived at 5 a.m. to start the day's baking. As she unlocked the back door, she smelled something strange, not smoke, something electrical, like burning plastic. She flipped on the lights and saw it. One of her commercial ovens was glowing red on the side panel. Sparks were shooting from the control panel. Maria did the smart thing. She didn't touch it. She called 911 immediately. Fire trucks arrived in 8 minutes. The fire inspector's words haunt her to this day. "Ma'am, you're lucky you came in early. That oven was about 30 minutes away from a full electrical fire. The wiring in this building is original, from 1962. One spark and this whole block could have gone up." The oven was shut down. The fire inspector red-tagged it. But here's where Maria's nightmare actually began. The inspector didn't just red-tag the oven, he red-tagged the entire electrical system in the kitchen. You can't operate until a licensed electrician inspects and certifies this entire space. The wiring doesn't meet current commercial kitchen code. It probably never did. Maria stood there, stunned. "How long will that take?" she asked. "To get an electrician? Maybe a week? To rewire a commercial kitchen this size? 3 to 4 weeks minimum, plus permitting, inspections, and approval? You're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer in summer. Everyone's backed up." Maria called her insurance company that afternoon. Surely this was covered, right? The insurance adjuster was sympathetic but clear. "Your policy covers fire damage. You don't have fire damage. Your policy covers business interruption if there's a covered loss event. Upgrading outdated wiring to meet code? That's not a covered loss. That's maintenance and improvement." "But I can't operate," Maria said. "I understand, but code compliance issues aren't covered under your current policy. You'd need a different endorsement for that, which you don't have." Maria got 3 quotes from electricians. The cheapest was $38,000. The timeline was 8 weeks minimum because they had to pull permits and the city was backed up. She did the math in her head. 2 months of 0 revenue. $18,000 per month in lost sales equals $36,000. $38,000 for the electrical work. Rent still due. $4,000 per month times 2 equals $8,000. 2 employees she'd have to lay off. Wedding cake orders she'd have to cancel and refund. Total damage? Over $80,000. Her emergency fund? $25,000. Not even close. Maria tried everything. She applied for emergency loans. Denied. Her credit was maxed from the initial build-out. She tried to negotiate with her landlord. He was sympathetic but firm. The lease doesn't allow for non-payment, even in emergencies. She started a GoFundMe. It raised $11,000. Generous, but nowhere near enough. By September 1st, 45 days after the red tag, Maria made the hardest decision of her life. She closed Sweet Maria's Bakery permanently. The bakery that had taken 10 years to build died in 72 hours because of a risk she never saw coming. A risk that wasn't fire, wasn't theft, wasn't a lawsuit. It was infrastructure failure combined with regulatory compliance. Two risks that, when they hit together, created a catastrophic loss she couldn't survive. Here's what breaks my heart about Maria's story. This entire disaster was predictable, and it was preventable. If Maria had created one simple document before opening her bakery, she would still be in business today. That document? A risk register. Now I know what you're thinking. What the heck is a risk register? A risk register is a living document that identifies every significant risk your business faces, assesses how likely and how damaging each risk is, and documents your specific plan to prevent or respond to each one. It's used by project managers, by construction companies, by Fortune 500 corporations, but almost no small business owners create one. And that's why 95% of startups are walking around blind to the threats that will kill them. Let me show you exactly how this works, using Maria's bakery as the example. First, you list every risk your business could face, not just the obvious ones, all of them. For Maria's bakery, a proper risk register would have included cash flow disruption, unexpected major expenses, loss of key revenue source, economic downturn affecting customer spending, equipment failure, supply chain disruption, key employee departure, utilities interruption, infrastructure failure, health department violations, building code issues, permit problems, license renewals, fire or natural disaster, theft or vandalism, pandemic or public health crisis, competitor opening nearby. Notice what's on that list? Infrastructure failure and building code issues, the exact combination that killed Maria's business. Second, for each risk, you assess two things: likelihood and impact. You rate each risk on a simple scale. Likelihood, how probable is this? Low, medium, or high? Impact, if this happens, how bad is it? Low, medium, or catastrophic? Let's do this for Maria's bakery. Equipment failure in a commercial kitchen? Likelihood, high. Commercial ovens run 12 hours a day, things break. Impact, medium to catastrophic, depending on what breaks and how long you're down. Building code issues in a 1962 building being used as a commercial kitchen? Likelihood, medium to high. Old buildings often have grandfathered systems that don't meet current code. Impact, catastrophic if you're forced to close for upgrades. When you see a risk that's medium to high likelihood and catastrophic impact, that's a red alert risk. That's the risk that will kill your business if you don't have a plan. Third, for every high priority risk, you document your mitigation strategy. This is your action plan to either prevent the risk or reduce its impact. For equipment failure, Maria's risk register should have included schedule preventive maintenance every 6 months. Budget $500 per month for equipment reserve fund. Maintain relationships with 3 equipment repair companies. Have backup oven rental company on speed dial. Cross-train staff so anyone can operate any equipment. Keep list of nearby commercial kitchens that rent space by the hour. For building code compliance issues, here's what would have saved Maria. Before signing the lease, hire an electrician to inspect the entire space. Get a written assessment. Does it meet current commercial kitchen code? If not, negotiate with landlord to upgrade before you move in, or get rent concession to cover upgrade costs. Budget for code compliance as part of initial build-out, not as a surprise later. Ask insurance brokers specifically about business interruption coverage for code compliance issues. Consider ordinance or law coverage endorsement. Verify that policy covers loss of income during forced closure for non-damage events. If Maria had done this assessment before signing her lease, she would have discovered the electrical issue. She could have negotiated with the landlord to fix it, or she would have walked away from that location and found a compliant space. Either way, she'd still have her bakery. Fourth, you create contingency plans for your top 5 catastrophic risks. A contingency plan answers one question. If this terrible thing happens tomorrow, what exactly do we do? For forced closure due to code compliance, Maria's contingency plan should have been: Step 1. Immediately contact insurance broker to file claim and explore all coverage options. Step 2. Contact landlord to discuss emergency repairs and potential rent abatement during closure. Step 3. Activate backup kitchen plan. Contact prearranged commercial kitchen rental space to continue production at reduced capacity. Step 4. Communicate with customers. Send email blast explaining temporary closure and offering refunds or alternative fulfillment. Step 5. Tap emergency fund. Allocate funds to cover critical expenses, rent, insurance, minimum staff retention. Step 6. Apply for emergency business loan. Have pre-approved line of credit ready to activate. Notice something? Every single one of those steps requires advanced preparation. You can't create these relationships or financial instruments in the middle of a crisis. But if you've documented them in your risk register, you have a playbook, you're not panicking, you're executing. Finally, and this is critical, your risk register is a living document. You review and update it quarterly. Why? Because risks change. New risks emerge. A pandemic hits, a competitor opens, a key supplier goes bankrupt. Old risks disappear. You pay off your loan, you hire a backup manager, you move to a new building. Risk levels shift. What was low probability becomes high probability. What was low impact becomes catastrophic. Every quarter you spend 30 minutes reviewing your risk register. What new risks have appeared? What risks have changed in likelihood or impact? Are our mitigation strategies still working? Do we need to update our contingency plans? This isn't paranoia, this is professionalism. Here's why you create your risk register before you open, not after. First, many risks can only be mitigated before you launch, like Maria's electrical issue. Once you've signed a 5-year lease and built out the kitchen, you're stuck. But before you sign, you have leverage. Second, some risks require insurance endorsements or policy features you can only get at inception. Try adding pandemic coverage after a pandemic starts. Good luck. But before, it's just a line item. Third, investors and lenders want to see that you've thought through your risks. A solid risk register makes you look professional and prepared. It increases your chances of getting funded. Fourth, the process of creating your risk register will reveal problems with your business model before you invest everything. You might discover you can't afford adequate mitigation for a catastrophic risk. Better to know now than 6 months in. Here's your action plan. If you haven't opened yet, create your risk register this week. Before you sign any leases, before you buy any equipment, before you hire anyone. If you're already operating, but you don't have a risk register, stop everything and create one this weekend. Yes, it will take a few hours. Yes, it will be uncomfortable to think about everything that could go wrong. Do it anyway. I've created a free risk register template specifically for small businesses. It includes a spreadsheet template with all the categories pre-built, a list of 100 common small business risks organized by category so you don't miss anything, assessment criteria to rate likelihood and impact consistently, sample mitigation strategies for the 20 most common risks, contingency planning worksheet, quarterly review checklist. The link is in the description below. Download it right now. Spend 2 hours this weekend filling it out. Then schedule a 90-minute meeting with your business partners, your insurance broker, and your accountant to review it together. They'll see risks you missed. They'll suggest mitigation strategies you didn't think of. And most importantly, you'll have a plan. Let me be very direct with you. Creating a risk register takes about 4 hours of focused work. Maria lost $80,000 in her dream because she didn't spend those 4 hours. I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. A restaurant owner loses everything because their head chef quits with no backup. A retail store closes because their landlord sells the building and the new owner triples the rent. A consultant goes bankrupt because their biggest client, who represents 70% of revenue, leaves with no warning. Every single one of these disasters was predictable. Every single one was preventable with a risk register and basic contingency planning. You don't get to say, "I didn't know this could happen," because now you do know. If this video saved you from making Maria's mistake, do 2 things. First, subscribe to Small Business Risk and turn on notifications. Every week, I break down a different risk that kills businesses and show you exactly how to protect yourself. Second, send this video to every entrepreneur you know who's about to launch or who's operating without a safety net. Maria's story doesn't need to be their story. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the biggest risk facing your business right now? Let's talk about it. Maria reached out to me. It has been 6 months after closing her bakery. She'd seen one of my videos and wanted to tell her story so other entrepreneurs wouldn't make her mistake. She said something I'll never forget. "I thought being prepared meant having insurance and a business plan. I didn't know I needed to think like this. I didn't know I was supposed to be identifying risks and making plans. No one teaches you that." Well, now you know. The best businesses aren't the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones that survive long enough to execute their ideas. And survival? That requires seeing the risks before they see you. I'm your host at Small Business Risk. Create your risk register. Protect your dream. I'll see you next week.